You have been running the wrong race for 10 years. Not because you were slow, because someone quietly switched the finish line on you and nobody mentioned it. If you earn somewhere around $120,000 a year at 35, you sit above roughly 90% of Americans your age. The data is not ambiguous, the math is not close, and yet most people earning that number feel like they are losing. Today, I want to show you exactly why that feeling exists, where it comes from, and what changes when you finally look at the real scoreboard instead of the one your LinkedIn feed built for you. Before we get into the numbers, I want to be clear about something. This is not a video telling you to be grateful. Gratitude does not pay your rent, and this is not about dismissing the real financial pressure millions of people feel every day. The pressure is real. The squeeze is documented. We are going to look at that data too. What this is about is a specific cognitive trap, one that is costing people enormous amounts of peace, career leverage, and financial clarity. And the trap has a name. I call it the comparison distortion. It is the gap between where you actually stand and where you think you stand, created entirely by a broken benchmark you never chose and never questioned. So let me show you the real numbers first. The Bureau of Labor Statistics publishes median weekly earnings every quarter, broken down by age and sex. The most recent data from the fourth quarter of 2024 shows that men ages 35 to 44 earn a median of $1,488 per week. That translates to roughly $77,000 per year. For women in the same age group, the median is $1,205 per week, around $62,000 annually. Split the difference across the full workforce, and the combined median for 35 to 44-year-old workers sits close to $70,000 per year. That is the midpoint. Half of everyone your age earns less than that. Now here is where the numbers get interesting. To reach the top 25% of individual earners nationally, you need to clear roughly $106,000. The top 10% threshold sits at approximately $149,000. The top 5% begins around $350,000. These are not household numbers. These are individual income figures. If you are a college-educated professional in your mid-30s earning anywhere between $100,000 and $150,000, you are not average. You are in the top 10 to 15% of earners across the entire country. That is not a motivational statement. That is arithmetic. And yet, talk to those people and they will tell you they feel underpaid. They feel like they are behind. They feel like they are treading water while everyone around them is thriving. That feeling is the comparison distortion doing exactly what it was built to do. This is where I want you to subscribe to Paycheck Playbook, because this is precisely the kind of gap between perception and reality we dig into here. The gap that costs you money without ever showing up on a bill. Let me show you what is feeding the distortion. Picture a graph with a single horizontal line. That line represents the national income distribution. The left side is the bottom percentile. The right side is the top 1%. Most people, when they imagine where they stand, point somewhere in the middle, maybe slightly above average. That is the estimate. Now draw a second line. The perceived benchmark, the income level of the people you actually compare yourself to. For most college-educated professionals in major metros, that line sits dramatically to the right of where they are. The gap between those two lines is the comparison distortion. And it is not an accident. There are three mechanisms driving it, and each one is invisible until you name it. The first is the selection filter. Kevin is 36 years old. He works in product management, earns $128,000 a year, and genuinely believes he is slightly below average for someone with his background. He opens LinkedIn on a Tuesday morning and sees his former classmate announce a $240,000 total compensation package at a Bay Area tech company. He sees his college roommate close a funding round. He sees his cousin post about a promotion to managing director. What Kevin does not see is the other 300 people from his graduating class who are earning $68,000 managing retail teams or working in government jobs, or still carrying student loan debt from degrees that did not pay out the way anyone promised. The people who post are not a random sample. They are the outliers. And when your reference group is entirely composed of outliers, you recalibrate your sense of normal upward until a top 10% income feels like falling behind. This is not unique to Kevin. It is structural. The platforms designed to keep you engaged are also the platforms that systematically show you the best outcomes of your peer group. You are not seeing your cohort. You are seeing a curated highlight reel of the top 5% of your cohort, and you are using that highlight reel to evaluate yourself. The second mechanism is the real wage erosion effect. Between 2020 and 2024, consumer prices rose approximately 21%. Nominal wages grew about 17 to 18% over the same period. That gap, 3 to 4 percentage points, represents real purchasing power that evaporated for most workers. You got raises. The raises felt significant, and yet somehow the grocery bill was higher, the rent renewal was higher, and the paycheck felt thinner, because it was thinner in real terms. The math confirms what your gut was telling you. The feeling of running in place was not a character flaw. It was an accurate reading of the data. Wages have been recovering since mid-2023, but the cumulative deficit from those 2 years has not fully closed for most households. So when people say the raise did not feel real, they are right. For a significant stretch, it was not real. The third mechanism is the most insidious because it lives inside the building where you work. It is called salary compression, and it is quietly dismantling the connection between loyalty and compensation. Here is what happens. During competitive hiring periods, companies raise starting offers for new roles to attract talent. A company that was paying $80,000 to fill an analyst position now has to offer $95,000 to compete in the market. The new hire comes in at $95,000. The analyst who has been there for 4 years, who trained 2 people and knows the system's cold, is still at $86,000. The gap is not because of performance. It is because internal salary adjustments almost never keep pace with external market pressure. Syndio analyzed compensation data across thousands of roles and found that in 83% of high-paying job groups, those with average salaries of $125,000 or more, tenured employees earn the same as or less than new hires. In 30% of those cases, the newer employee earns more. So when someone with 8 years of experience feels underpaid relative to the new hire 2 desks over, they are often correct. The internal benchmark is broken, but here is the important distinction. Being underpaid relative to a new colleague is a real and legitimate grievance. It is a compensation structure problem. It is not evidence that you are below the national average. Those are 2 completely different questions, and most people collapse them into one feeling. Here is what happens when you keep those 3 mechanisms running simultaneously. You look at your paycheck and it feels smaller than it should because of real wage erosion. You look at your colleagues and feel underpaid because of salary compression. You look at your LinkedIn feed and feel behind because of the selection filter. Every data point you use to evaluate yourself is distorted. The reading on every instrument is wrong, and you make decisions based on those false readings. You stay in a negotiation longer than you should because you underestimate your leverage. You accept a lateral move because you think your market value is lower than it is. You feel a low-level financial anxiety that has no floor because the benchmark you are chasing is not real. It is built from noise. Now, I want to flip this around completely. Let me show you what the actual graph looks like when you use the right benchmark. Imagine 2 bars side by side. The first bar is the national median for a full-time worker aged 35 to 44, roughly $70,000. The second bar is where a college-educated professional earning $120,000 stands. That second bar is not slightly taller. It is nearly double the height of the first. The bar just cleared the top 10% threshold nationally. The gap between those 2 bars is the space that the comparison distortion has been hiding from you. Every time you felt average, you were looking at the wrong bar. Now you might be saying, Drew, the cost of living in my city is not the same as the national average. And that is a completely legitimate point. If you are in San Francisco or New York, $120,000 does not buy what it buys in Raleigh or Columbus. That is real. But here's the second layer. Even in the highest cost markets, the national percentile data still tells you something critical about your negotiating position, your sense of relative standing, and your ability to build wealth over time. A high cost of living is a spending problem, not an income problem. Those are different levers, and conflating them leads to different mistakes. The comparison distortion makes you think you need to earn more. Often what you actually need to do is restructure where the money goes. That is a much more solvable problem. I am Drew. This is Paycheck Playbook, and the protocol I want to give you here is not complicated, but most people never do it. Step 1 is to look up your actual percentile. Go to the DQY income percentile calculator. Plug in your individual pre-tax income. Select full-time workers aged 35 to 44. Read the number. Do not argue with it. Do not adjust it for cost of living yet. Just see where you actually stand on the national distribution before you add any variables. That number is your starting point, and for most people watching this, it is significantly higher than they expected. Step 2 is to audit your reference group. Write down the last 5 people whose income or career trajectory made you feel behind. Now ask yourself honestly, are these people representative of your graduating class, your industry, or your city? Or are they the outliers you see because they are loud and successful and visible? If your reference group is systematically composed of the top 5%, your sense of normal is miscalibrated. That is not humility. It is a math error. Recalibrate toward the actual distribution. Step 3 is to separate the salary compression problem from the benchmark problem. If you suspect you are underpaid relative to new hires or market rates for your specific role, that is worth investigating and worth negotiating. Pull salary data from Bureau of Labor Statistics occupational surveys for your specific job title and metro area. That is where your negotiation should be anchored, not in a feeling that you are below average nationally when you are not. Here is the reframe I want to leave you with. The comparison distortion does not just cost you peace of mind. It costs you time. Every year you spend chasing a benchmark that does not exist is a year you are not deploying the income you already have in ways that actually build freedom. $120,000 a year, managed deliberately, is enough to max out a 401k, fully fund a Roth individual retirement account, build a 6-month emergency fund, and still have margin for living. That is not a hypothetical. That is arithmetic. But none of that happens if you are spending the psychological bandwidth of someone who is behind, even when the data says you are not. The most expensive thing the comparison distortion steals from you is not money. It is the clarity to make good decisions with the income you already have. The number on your paycheck is not the problem. The benchmark you are measuring it against probably is. I want to hear from you in the comments. Pull up that income percentile calculator right now, check where you actually land, and drop the number below. No judgment, no context needed. Just the percentile. I read every comment, and I want to know how far off the comparison distortion has been running for the people watching this. If this landed for you, hit the like button. It helps this channel reach people who are making financial decisions based on a broken scoreboard. I will see you in the next one.